Hello everyone, my name is Angelica Cabral, and today I will be informing you on how bio-archaeologists and or forensic anthropologists sex the human skeleton. So let's begin. So before these professions can begin attempting to estimate the sex of an individual, it is important for them to first be able to identify what type of bone the skeleton is, if it's human bone or animal bone, and when doing so, they can then move on to counting the number of individuals that are set before them. And once these two steps are accomplished, they can finally begin attempting to estimate the sex of an individual. For one to fully understand the concept of what it means to sex the human skeleton, it would be really helpful to know what sexing as well as sexual dimorphism and bone morphology mean. Sexing is just a term that is used to name the process of estimating the likely sex of an individual based on the bones that were found. Sexual dimorphism and bone morphology are somewhat similar, because sexual dimorphism is really just confined to the physical differences between a male body and a female body. And when researchers are looking for these differences in bone size and in bone shape, it's referred to as bone morphology. It is important to know and understand that sexing does not determine a person's sexual orientation or their gender. All sexing really does is it helps researchers loosely pinpoint where the individual they're studying would fall under the sex continuum. So it is not a determination but an estimation, hence the phrase more or less male or more or less female. Sexing can only be done on adults because the human skeleton is already fully grown and matured, and if a researcher were to attempt to estimate the sex of a prepubescent individual, the task would be incredibly difficult because a prepubescent individual, their bones are not fully developed, they're still growing, and the biological sex differences are not necessarily there. And if they were to be there, it would be very hard for the researcher to identify. So that is why sexing is only for adult human skeletons. When it comes to sexing the human skeleton, sexing relies a lot on the cranium and the pelvis, and that is because these are areas in the body where one can really find the clearest sex-based differences. The cranium is important when it comes to sexing the human skeleton because most of the time men tend to have a bigger skull than that of females, and such bone morphology opens the way for a bioarchaeologist or a forensic anthropologist to come up with an estimation of biological sex. Sexing also relies a lot on the pelvis, and that is because males and females, seeing as they have different roles when it comes to reproduction, their pelvis tends to be a bit different from one another. Like for example, a woman's pubic bone is small in height but wide from side to side, and a man's pubic bone is longer but more narrow from side to side. And with that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.